refill?
I'm gonna have to go grab the bottle.
You can go grab it quick.
I'm gonna go. Well, I'll see how this goes. Maybe come rant, then I'll fill it up to the top.
Okay.
But
All
I'm
right.
sitting right here.
Well, that could have been our intro there. So, what's up, you dirt bags? As you heard, Luke does not have the bottle with him, but he's got a full glass. We are back. It has
We're
been
back, baby.
little bit of a whirlwind. We missed our first episode in a while, but we're gonna come back with the Q&A episode here. We've got a rant episode coming up like right after this as well. So we're gonna hit you guys with a lot of content. But Luke, how's it feel to have internet?
Dude, it feels great. I don't know what the hell the problem was, but it literally took a week to figure out. After they cut the cord, there wasn't anything getting like reception, but it worked on my phone. It just wouldn't connect to my computer. So I'm on the phone with Midco, our service provider, and then I'm on the phone with Apple, and they're both pointing fingers at each other like, yeah, just call them. It's their problem. No, ended up being Midco's problem. They fixed it. Good to go.
Dude, I thought about it for a sec. Like, I thought about maybe just having you jump on your phone and doing a podcast, but that would have been so brutal. I
Nobody would have
just
listened to that because that sound would have sucked.
no, and I was like, well, maybe let's just wait till you get it figured out. So looks like you got it going. You in the basement, new setup, new backdrop there,
Yeah.
and
We moved a little out of town. Ryan and I did. We just recently closed, so we're finally all moved in. And yeah, new setup. I gotta get some shit on the walls, and obviously I've got some shit on the floor still that'll get put away here eventually. But it's a process.
yeah, man, congratulations on that. And I mean, we got a lot to cover. Like I mentioned, we're gonna do a Q&A episode here. We got a lot of great questions sent in, so this makes it a whole lot easier. But a couple things before we dive into that. Dirtbags University is Monday, October 16th, so it's coming up. We will have the registration open. A couple ways you can do that. You can go to our website, dirtbagspodcast.com, click Dirtbags University, and you can sign up there. Or if you just click the link like on our Instagram, you should be able to find it there. So we're talking about capitalizing on your online presence. We've got the man, Zach Baruli, coming in. He runs the Facebook page, Excavating and Estimating, and he is a Facebook ads expert that has run many excavation companies, done it all, and it's going to be fun to have him on.
It's fun to hear his insight and kind of hear what he has to say, because I'm not part of that Facebook group anymore because I was getting kind of tired of everybody asking what they should charge on things. But there was some good value that I know like people got from him and on the classes and finding his true costs and things like that. So it was cool to see that he was very willing to help.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm excited too to I'll be jumping in on more so like the Google stuff and some SEO and website, but giving him the floor for the majority of the time, just like any university, we'll have the presentation for about 30 to 45 minutes. And then we open it up for questions after that, where we can bring you in and actually walk through the scenario yourself. But Luke, I'm excited too, to even go a bit further and look at not just like Facebook ads and Google stuff, but like branding your company and also like attracting potential employees and also attracting future brand deals like with bigger companies. And there's so much more that you can do with an asset that is a company that people a lot of times don't even think of.
Mm-hmm. And we talk about that all the time, but those start to come when you are able to kind of take a step back from your business.
Yeah.
Fun fact, Cole and I are actually implementing the company's called the Greenhouse. And if you've ever heard of EOS, that's in the book Traction. We're implementing that because we need better systems. We need better communication throughout our systems. Patrick Metzger, he's from Fargo. He's actually the guy that kind of implements it within your company. And so our first meeting here is, I think it's December 6th. And then we're going to get everything dialed and everything figured out, chain of command. Looking forward to it because we grew a lot and it kind of fucked us to where we're like, we got to figure it out. And so now we're at that point where it's like, okay, how do we give everybody the right tools? But on that tangent there, when you can remove yourself from your company, which that is meant to set up, you're able to find those opportunities like you had just mentioned, Luke.
Dude, Patrick Metzger, that's my guy. So
he's cool.
Super nice. I came across him years ago because he's out of Fargo and he has a PM logo as well. So I thought that was kind of funny. And then I think my dad knows him, but
I honestly thought you and him like copied each other at first because he was like one of my first LinkedIn follows.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah,
I don't know who had it first, honestly, but
I'd say you did.
yeah, probably. But yeah, dude, EOS, I've talked about a little bit on the show. We are implementing it as well.
Oh, yeah.
I'm currently going through Traction, and I think anyone that is reading the book Traction, I'm reading it a totally different way, and I think it's how most people actually do read it. Very slow. Like I'm still
It's a
like in
tough book.
chapter I'm like in chapter 2 still because there's so much to do outside of the book. Like, for example, it talks about your vision and like getting your core values established, but gives you a link to a worksheet that you can print off where you start going through those goals, those core values, your focus. So it's like a very slow read, but I kind of like it because I'm a slow reader. So it doesn't make me feel as bad about myself that it's been 6 months and I'm on chapter 2.
Yeah, that one's it's a slow read in the sense of like it's very slow moving and it's kind of boring unless you kind of like go through the process and then you can relate to a lot better, I feel like.
Yeah. And, for anyone listening to it, so my company right now, we technically only have 2 employees, myself and Josie. We're about to hire on a third
Saw
full
that. Congrats
time.
to you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited. EOS typically recommends that the company's at about 10 to 250 employees, I think. But what I learned is that there are pieces of EOS you can still implement even if you're by yourself. So, as an example, like how to figure out your core values. Like you could be one man owner operator and still do that part. You can still figure out like, well, what are my values
Mhm.
systems look like? And we just got our core values nailed down. And I'm a marketing company, and we didn't have core values for 3.5 years. So it's never too late. And it's like, just chip away at it and chip away at continuing to build an asset, that is your business.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's if you start out, like you said early on, you can implement that probably so much easier because you already know the process and you can help teach the people that come on board, like, hey, this is our process. This is what we follow.
Yeah, good for you guys though. I mean, that's a huge step to
Yeah.
pull your head kind of out of the water, especially at the stage you guys are at in business. But yeah, how has everything been going in business and like I mean, I'm sure there's a lot you didn't expect, but like anything crazy?
Oh, dude, it is a different company every week. Cole and
Yeah,
I constantly tell each other that because there's so many changes. You get kicked in the dick so many times during the week, and it's just like, what else can come about? But at the same time, we constantly remind each other, like, hey, not the end of the world. We're gonna figure it out. We have that no fail mentality, and we just keep trudging forward. There's instances where we bought two semis, two new semis this year. Both of them need new engines. Wonderful. Okay, we bought a new heavy haul. Okay, the heavy haul is constantly needing work, pushing schedules back because now we got to hire out other people to move our equipment. There's been a couple accidents that we've had on vehicles, and it's just like, when is it gonna end? But you have to look at yourself and be like, okay, it's not the end of the world. We're still making progress. We're still trudging forward. Guys are still, doing what we need to be doing. So that's what you have to look at. But no, things are good. We're anxious kind of for the end of the year. I know everyone's getting tired, which, it is that time of season, but it's good,
yeah. So
moving dirt and having fun.
yeah, when does is it usually like late November, December
Yeah.
time?
Usually, like your first freeze up is kind of right around that Thanksgiving time. And I mean, realistically, we'll probably still do some digging in the winter just
Yeah,
to stay on top of things. And it sucks, but there's like instances where you almost have to keep certain general contractors happy. They want to see forward progression, even if
yeah.
it costs them more in the winter. They need to see it, which is fine. It's just a little bit tougher on the equipment. It takes more time and whatever. But guys still get their hours, so
I see. When you say it costs them more in the winter, is that because it just takes longer to dig?
takes a lot longer and then your charges go up. Like there's like
I
frost
see.
strippers. We got to get frost strippers. Those aren't the best on the machine. You're basically doing something twice. You're breaking up the frost, grabbing your bucket, moving the frost, grabbing the breaker, breaking the frost, so
Yeah,
it takes a lot more time and then it's a little bit harder on the machines and obviously the cold, you got to get different grease and different fuel. Number one fuel or number one off-road fuel is more
yeah.
expensive. or two, shit like that. But
Yeah. And I guess in a perfect world, like, would your guys rather be laid off in the winter, or would they rather work through the winter? Like, is it kind of split down the middle?
I think it's kind of split in the middle. I know some guys are like, don't fucking call me in the winter. Call me
Yeah.
when we start back out full time. Other than that, I don't want to push snow. I don't want to dig in the winter,
Yeah.
which that's fine. But then, you make your money in the summer, put your hours in the summer so you can enjoy it in the winter, because unemployment, I mean, it's good to have because it helps keep income, right? But it's hard to live off of. And people understand that really fast to where even if you just get 40 hours a week, you're still way ahead of where you would be on unemployment.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I've always been fascinated with that because obviously construction, it's very common
Mhm.
with that, but a lot of businesses, it's not like a black and white type of situation usually. Like it's kind of a lot of times a gray area, especially if you're out in maybe a place that gets some snow but not a ton of snow, and so you can kind of dig, or should we do snow removal or both? And so I feel like the nice thing about being up in Fargo and Bismarck and up in North Dakota is that it's pretty clear that it's not going to be sunshine and warm in January.
Correct. Yeah, we know our seasons pretty well.
Yeah.
We eventually want to get to the point to where we're working April through November, right? And then December through February or whenever, or March. March is usually kind of that time people start coming back and getting things ready. But they can
Yeah.
take off, but yet their year-end bonus, will carry them through the winter plus some is where we want to be. To where, and if we do have loaders, we'll sub them on with Glacier, and guys want to get some more hours, perfect. Here you go. Call Jeremy and he'll get you set up type thing. So
Yeah. Speaking of Glacier and Jeremy, well, got to give the Snow Jobs guys a huge shout out. If you guys don't know or haven't listened, I'm sure you have the Snow Jobs podcast. They just crossed 100,000 downloads, and I think they started in February of this year. So a
yeah,
huge shout out to those guys. I mean, they are crushing it, but um, Luke, I think to sustain it for that long, you can't just be lucky. I mean, you have to
no,
be providing value to your listeners. And so that's just a huge testament to them. But word on the street is they might be coming back on the show here.
might be coming on. Tis the season for a lot of companies and construction to start switching to the snow. So it'd be good to maybe get some advice from the industry experts.
Yeah. And so we did have Jeremy on the Dirtbags podcast maybe last year. I can't even remember when it was. And he crushed it, did a great job. But we have not had Steve on. So I think we're gonna have them both on, have both the Snow Jobs guys, and it'll be a good episode.
Steve is fun. His contact in my phone is catch these hands landscaping, because I think his company is all hands
Yeah.
landscaping. So it's catch these hands.
Yeah, he's just Steve Snow Jobs in mine. So
Yeah, yeah.
I should have came up with something better than that. But no, those guys are great. We appreciate, all their support, and then vice versa. I know they're very appreciative of, what we do with them, and they're just great guys. So if you're not listening to them, go listen to their show. It blends a lot in with what Luke and I do here at the Dirtbags. And
And they
another
get
thing,
really good advice just for people that
yeah.
are in our space that do snow removal. They can really help your snow removal operation too, with just bringing on these different guests that have done it, that have gone through it. So really, really good wisdom.
Yeah, and even if you're not into snow, a lot of times you get a lot of guys that listen that do snow, but they're like an excavation company or a concrete company, or they do something else in the spring, summer, and fall. So you can at least meet other people that way. And but they do a ton of stuff, different meetups and things, similar to what we do at different shows. So
Yep, absolutely. So go listen to the Blowjobs podcast.
the blowjobs. Yeah, love that. We'll have to clip that and send it to them and use it as their commercial.
They'll love
Um, One other thing I wanted to mention, if you guys have been listening, we appreciate it. But a couple of the last times we had mentioned, since we crossed 50K, we're going to start looking at bringing on some advertisers. And I was working up a post. I was going to figure out what to put out there. But before I could put anything out, we actually had 3 companies reach out to us that could be a really good fit. So we will have some more info for you guys on that. But one of them that's for sure locked in and we're excited about, because it's actually one of our first questions, is a company by the name of Lambert Insurance Services. So Sam Lambert, he owns the company. He's a dirtbag himself. He's been in the excavation industry he listens to the show, and basically he said, I think this could be a good fit. And Luke, I think that's always been a pain point for us because like Sam told me, he's like, nobody really wants to talk about insurance, but everyone needs it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of the number one questions I get from people that listen is like, who do you use for insurance, like in construction? And we haven't really had a good answer. So we're excited to, bring him on and like, bring him to anyone listening and just see like how that whole relationship works. But just having the support from him has been awesome so far.
Yeah, the insurance industry is tough because you think you could go to Progressive and get business insurance and you're all good and dandy, but it goes a lot deeper than that. So anxious to finally get somebody that's in the space or knows the space and kind of knows the ins and outs and can speak your language. That'll help a lot as far as policy writing and underwriters. And yeah, so we're anxious to have him on.
Yeah. And an example of that actually was one of our clients and a good friend of mine, Tony Moritz out of Valley City. He texted me the other day and had basically had a question about his insurance because they were going like under a railroad or something like that. And so there's issues with his current insurance. And so he asked like if we knew anyone, and sure enough, I sent him to Sam, and he's like, oh yeah, we do a lot of work with like, railroad specialized type insurance for boring companies and things like that. So I feel like you just don't get that as much when you call like the Progressive hotline, and sorry to shit on Progressive so much, but
Yeah, but they're
um
just the easiest.
yeah. And so I think it's really like, can you find somebody that you really want to work with and grow with that kind of knows your business? So anyway, we're gonna have a couple more sponsors coming on. We're gonna insert those ad reads for you guys, and then we're also gonna kind of put them on our website just to make sure that you guys have access to them.
Yep. Yep. So keep your eye out for those, and those should be coming online here soon. So hell yeah. Well, Luke, should we get to the point of what everybody is waiting for?
Dude, I think so.
Q&A.
Let's get to a little Q&A here. So all right, so we're gonna skip that first one with the insurance. So next one. Okay. What's so this is from Tom
Yep.
Flaherty. What's the best practice for leading and delegating when you know you can do it faster and better? I feel like when I saw this question come in, I knew it'd be perfect because there's so many people, including us, that feel the same way. It's like, okay, well, I can just do it faster and better. Why would I hire somebody else, take that drop in quality just to try and grow? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, but it's you got to look at your bigger picture. Where do you want to go? Right? If you want to stay small and only have a couple guys underneath you, don't don't delegate that out. You take those responsibilities on that that kind of, help support your name and support your brand. If you do want to grow, have them shadow you. Hey, you're going to ride with me today. Hey, we're going to do these. I'm going to show you step by step of what I would do. Okay, next one that comes in, I'm going to have you do it, but I'm going to be on the phone. Right? You have to it's you're molding that person to try to act like you would within the business, right? That's why you pay people. That's why you try to support your crew members, is like, I want you to grow within the company, but the company is mine, so here's my expectation of it. And just grow it that way. I don't think there's like a best practice because everybody's personalities are different. I mean, there's different learning types, there's visual, there's hearing, there's all sorts of different types. So I think it depends on the personality itself, and also the message that you try to get across while teaching. Do you actually put the time in to try to help that person understand like what the importance of that thing is, or what the importance of doing this the right way is? I think if those are communicated well and presented well, then you'll have no issues. It might take 2-3 times, but then after those 2 to 3 times, your ROI for where you can be doing something else, you're gonna start growing really fast once that gets implemented.
Yeah, and I think the big question is like, do you want to grow, like you mentioned, but do you want to grow and why? Because I've talked to a couple guys where it's like, they just want to be the biggest company out there. They're young and they just want to have this huge company with their name on a bunch of equipment and trucks and everything. And okay, like why? Let's dig into it a little bit more. And
There's a lot more to it than that,
yeah,
and people don't see that. Like, it's cool to have your name on something or a lot of machines, whatever, but there is a lot that goes into that. So learn
Yeah.
that process before you jump into it.
Yep. And just kind of figuring out, yeah, like, do you want to grow and why? And also, this ties into you talking about EOS, that entrepreneurial operating system. Uh, People are going to come and go no matter what. It's a fact. You're
Business.
not you're not going to have the same person working with you, even if it's your right hand man, even if it's your office manager that you've had there forever. People are going to come and go,
Yep.
and they should. It's a lot of times it actually helps your business and it helps them as an individual. So what you need to build is a business with systems that you can plug really anyone into,
And they can learn and adapt
and they
fast.
can learn and adapt and then put their personality on it and be better than the other person that was in there. But at the end of the day, like, you need systems to come in, because if you spend 4 years teaching somebody how to do the job just the way you want to do it, and then that person leaves or passes away or you name it, I mean, there's so many things that could happen. How can you get the next person in quickly and just have them operate that same system? So organization comes into it big time, and just having a person be able to operate the system. That was a little tough for me right away to grasp, because I'm such a people person. I think I got to find the right people for the business, but it actually teaches you to be the opposite. Like, you need to build the right system and then plug in the people that can run that system.
100%. Yeah, no, it'll be a cool system to implement. But yeah, I think that's the best way to go about delegating. You know, where do you want to go? Check your vision. Okay. When you get your vision, I want 22 guys. I want to be able to spend more time at home. Okay, perfect. Here's what you got to do to implement that, and then go from there. So,
Yeah. And it's also like, your vision can be wrong. I think we don't talk about that enough,
I think it
where,
changes a lot too.
like, when we talk about 10-year goals and stuff and 5-year goals, it's like, I try and keep mine at like a year. I do have a 3-year goal, but I try and keep it at a year, just because even in that time it changes so much. So let's hit the goal, let's crush it, but let's reassess after that, because we may not want to go that extra $2 million more in revenue.
Yeah.
We may want to stay where we're at because we're profitable, we're enjoying it, we're making a difference. The balance seems to be right, but it's really, yeah, just figuring out what you want to do and why. But I love the chase of the business, and it's like, we're young, we have people surrounding us, we're blessed, we're very, very blessed. So why not, like, try and make a bigger impact and just do it in a more positive way?
Yeah, I agree. Good question, Tom.
Yeah, great question. Let's jump to Mr.
Arrow.
Jared Kep for arrow crushing. He will be at the Dirt World Summit, and we will be there as well. So hope to see you guys there. But Jared asks, what is the key to staying profitable while growing? When should a company grow aggressively, and when should a business hold back growth? How do you know when to hire a PM or an office manager? So this actually kind of ties into the question we just answered. Um, I will take the first stab at it, Jared, but in my opinion, when you're trying to grow, you're going to be less profitable. And so essentially that's kind of what he's saying in the question. So what can you sustain, and then making sure that there's still something left over and you're not burning cash. I think that can happen a lot, especially when it comes to marketing. You just start burning cash on Google ads, or you start burning cash on Facebook ads. And if you can't back it up with an equation of like why you're doing it, of an ROI, or you're investing into your brand presence or your brand equity, it's a lot tougher to just dive into it aggressively. So I think if you can show why you're trying to grow aggressively, and also show the equation of like, it is working and this is where we're trying to get to, so that we can cut it back, that would be ideal. But if Luke, have you ever read the book Profit First?
No, but I heard about it. I heard it's a good
Yeah.
book.
So this book actually talks a lot about it. It's because everyone has the mindset of like, okay, I'm just going to grow now and then we'll cut back and then we'll have money. But it's just like, you never get there, and that never happens. So what it teaches you to do is like, have your profit first, have that basically in a separate account. And then there's a whole system to it. But then it teaches you to run on your bare ass minimum to achieve the growth you want to achieve. So you don't have all this fluff spending going out, every which way. So I think that's a really good way to do it, because then you still have this profit account and you set the percentage of that profit, and you can still do what you want with the profit after it's all said and done. So you can take it home, you can invest it back into the business, but it's almost like an excuse when people say, oh, I'm just investing back in the business. I'm investing back in the business. But a lot of times it can just be like a crutch to never make money and make it out of your business.
Yeah. I'm going to jump in because I kind of want to dissect that question, because to me, there's like 4 different questions within the one, right? So first part, what is the key to staying profitable while growing? In my opinion, the key to staying profitable while growing is having excellent organization. Okay. Because you can grow, but if you aren't organized, you're not going to be profitable. You can continue to grow and be very organized, and you'll be profitable. Meaning, so say you're a company of 3-4 guys, right? And you do Monday through Friday, whatever, working, and there's logistic things that you maybe figure out the night before, the day before, whatever. If you were to figure out what that week is going to look like on Monday, then you can maybe fill those gaps with other projects, or you can find some of that free time for yourself to develop more business, and in turn you're growing and creating more revenue and hopefully becoming more profitable, in my opinion. Just kind of a small tidbit of what I thought of instantly. But growth is tough. I mean, it comes with a lot, especially within the excavation industry or just the contracting industry. There's a lot of overhead. Retainage is there to fuck you. Payment terms are out the window right now. A lot of it is paid upon paid. So the cards are stacked against you. I think it's just how you go about things, kind of the zero fail mentality of, okay, hey, payrolls this week. Who am I calling up to get a check? Okay, I built this. This is 30 days. And something that I've always abided by is the answer is always no unless asked. Right. So where if you're waiting, say it is payroll and you're waiting for a check to come in and nothing's coming in, get on the horn. Hey, is this available? Is this ready? Can I come pick this up? Right. Those are pains of the growth pattern, but it also helps you stay profitable as well, to where you're not waiting on other people. You're taking action in your own hands. And then, when should a company grow aggressively and when should a business hold back growth? Opportunities. If there is a lot of opportunities around you and there's a lot of people looking for people in your space, I think that was Cole and I's key to growth, is because they can, the biggest was we can never find earthwork guys. We can never find earthwork guys that are, reasonable, or, they show up, or, just kind of the old school way of doing it. So it's a lot on timing, but if you can fill that gap and you can make your presence with just kind of like a shock, you will grow very fast, and it'll be a growth that'll be hard to obtain and you'll have to adapt quickly, but you will grow. On when to hold back, I always say to hold back when, you're getting 10-12 bids per project on general contractors, right? Yeah. Then I wouldn't try to grow. I would just try to sustain, and we've only been in business for so long. So we've seen a lot of good, and I know we're going to see some bad here eventually. It's a roller coaster. So I think it's just preparing yourself for those bad times with the good, and then it'll pick back up, hit the ground running. So that would be my answer to that question. And then, how do you know when to hire a project manager or an office manager? Okay, pick your poison on that one, right? Yep. You as the business owner, are you better in the office? Or are you better in the field? Are you better with daily operations, or are you the one that is constantly invoicing, making calls, sending emails? What is your forte? If you are not an office person, hire an office person, because then you can be out in the field. You can still keep your schedule to where you're not working till 1 to 2 at night, sending emails or invoices or whatever, running on 4 hours of sleep. And then you can be that project manager. So, okay. And then flip that. If you're not a project manager, right, and you're hiring people that know more than you do, be the office manager, run the business behind the scenes, and that'll give you more time as well.
Yeah. I mean, they always say hire your weaknesses. And
Yep.
yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, it's easier said than done, because Jared wishes
Yes.
he could hire both, but you just not at that point. And so yeah, like you said, you gotta kind of pick one or the other. And also if you're a smaller business than what Jared has, you know, a lot of times you can't hire either because
Yep.
you have to be that person. But you're just paying your tuition, you're learning how to do this stuff, and so that when you do bring somebody in, you can at least lead them in the right direction of how you like to see it done.
100%. And it goes into those systems. Have the systems in place or have a process in place for them to follow.
Yeah, which I've learned sounds fancy and sounds really cool. And so I know I've had a couple people ask if we could dissect, like talk about like setting up systems and things. So I think that could be either a future podcast or, a good place to start is that book, Traction, because that's all it talks about.
Yep. 100%.
All right, you want to take the next one from Mr. Plow Guy Mike?
Log on, Mike. Let me pull it up here. There we go.
This is gonna be a good one.
Plow guy Mike. Luke, where though? Okay, here they are. Okay. It's Brew Guy Mike as the Instagram handle. Plow Guy Mike here on my personal page. Good question to ask. How do you know when it's the right timing to branch out on your own or expand either year-round work or scale your company to the next level? Background, I'm in Washington State and have my own winter business and work doing dirt work for a company in the summer. I also do contract wildland firework. I come from a background of heavy construction and have been around and in all lanes of the business. Finding your guys' podcast has helped summer work and winter work. Oh, oh yeah, I skipped the line. Sorry. I'm getting texts and trying to read those at the same time. Finding your guys' podcast has helped me broaden my perspective on both my summer work and winter work. Construction work has a way of giving you a tunnel vision. Due to the constant demands, I would love to hear some insight on other perspectives in the topic. I've been listening since day one, never missed a podcast. Cheers, Mike Scarcella.
Let's go. Let's
Cheers,
go.
Mike.
Okay, well, there's a lot to unpack there. But nice that he gave the whole scenario so you can kind of take a look through and, at least give your opinion on what you think. So, branching out on your own or expanding. I feel like we talk about that a lot. We hear about it a lot. We were talking about it before we started recording. Um, the pros and the cons about it, everyone can be a business owner in construction, and that's kind of a pro and a con because you can start just doing stuff on the sides on Saturdays. You can get your license. It's a pretty low barrier to entry. And then I think the jump to going full time is also met with a bridge of like being a sub, and like starting to get a little bit more under your work or under your feet, and then kind of taking it all in house. And we talked about that as well. So curious to hear what you think he should do, Luke. Whether he should go full time or like what that path would look like from your point of view.
I think that's a tough question, right? Because you got to look at where you're at financially. You got to look at the risks that you're willing to take. You got to look where you're at in life, right? If you, and this is me just saying it, but if, take it for a grain of salt, but if you have a family and say you have kids and you're comfortable where you're at, in my opinion, I would want to make sure that they're comfortable. And to me, I don't think I would take that risk right away, right? Because I would not want to risk taking away something from my family. Now, on the flip end, if you don't have a family and it's just yourself and you don't have really anything holding you back, why would you not try?
Yeah.
So what I would tell him is just to look where you're at, look where you are financially, look where you are as far as risk taking, and then make that decision.
Yeah. And a big piece too is financially, benefits are in there too. If he's getting health insurance and then, maybe his wife is planning on having another child in like 8 months or something, like,
Yep.
Is that coming out of pocket? So there's a lot of factors there to look at. And as you know, when you are a business owner and self-employed, you don't get any of those hard benefits as far as insurance and those kind of things. Like you pay for that out of pocket. So yeah, I think that's great advice. we get to talk to a lot of young, motivated people that barely have like a significant other even, and they just have like a four-wheeler to take care of and a truck,
Yeah.
and they're like, and for them it's like, yeah, absolutely, like why not
Why would
give
you
it a
not?
go? You can do it on the side, you can kind of figure it out. But it totally depends on your personal situation too, and I would agree, and I'm certainly more conservative, where I would for sure want to make sure we've got everything dialed in, borderline paid for, and then it's like, yeah, let's give this thing a shot
Yep.
on the weekends, or take a summer and try it then, and do some things that way. But I wouldn't want to go headfirst into the unknown when things are going great with our financial situation.
Correct. Yeah. So I think just taking that step back and, looking where you want to be, where you want to go. And, that doesn't mean stop what you're doing. Maybe you can add more to your plate to try to fill that up. And when it becomes, my decision maker was, okay, where am I going to lack? Right? If I am not here, is it going to hurt? Or if I'm not here, is it going to hurt? For a context of that, obviously sales, right? If I wasn't in, I couldn't take calls from customers with clients, right? But then if I'm not in the field, then I can't do the quality control. So you gotta give and take, and what's important to you and where do you want to go?
Yeah, it's a good point. And just obviously, if you are married, it's not just one person's decision there. So
Mhm.
making sure that the family's on board too. And the upside is a long ways away. I think of that when anyone wants to start a business. It's delayed gratification. Like it's far out there. And so if you're excited about that, and you understand that, and you want to just work towards that, I think that's perfect.
Mhm.
But if you want it now, or you need it now, it's definitely not the right move.
I think a person, Mike, if you're listening to this, who to ask that question to would be John Van Zee.
Yes.
Yeah, I think John would have some really good insight for you on that, because I feel like he was in that same situation, and what he did to get where he's at, he could probably touch on that a little bit better than I could, because
Yeah.
I was young and dumb. I was an idiot and I didn't think about anything when I started. Thankfully it paid off, but there's a lot of things that could have happened too. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that's JVZ Enterprises. They're him and his wife Morgan, they're awesome. And I feel like they seem to do everything right,
yep.
and they're doing everything right. But, even in talking to him, like they still have all the struggles that you and everyone else has. So I agree. Reaching out to him, you can find him on Instagram. He's a great, great one to talk to, because him and Morgan made that decision together, and they're riding with it together, and they're, working through all of that. So, yeah, very conscious decision. And like you said, not quite as young and dumb
Yeah,
as
and he's
as
got a
maybe you
family.
were.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't even look at the fucking payment when I went and signed on my skid steer. I just went and signed because I was like, fuck, I got approved. Hell yeah. Shouldn't have gotten approved, but whatever.
Oh, dude, that's the
Yeah.
best.
But yeah, good question, Mike.
I love it. Yeah. So Luke, I wanted to ask you, I didn't even bring this up, but I know you had a conversation um, with another business owner in construction, and basically talking about like when you're right on cash and payroll is coming up along with,
You're
or,
tight.
or when you're tight.
Tight. Yeah.
You had a little misspell there.
I was probably in the heat of the moment typing it.
Sorry, I'll start over. When you're tight on cash and payroll, when you're tight on cash and payroll is coming up along with equipment payments, what do you worry about first? Tell me about like that moment, and like
That was
I guess,
a really good question. So,
yeah,
little backstory. This is a big company in our area. They do a lot of underground, and just a super nice guy. And I had been trying to get to lunch with him, and we finally made something work. And we were talking about business, and Luke, how are you guys doing? And I've seen your stuff, it's super cool. And I'm like, hey, that's great coming from you. But then we started really asking each other questions, and that was one that he asked me, because I had asked him about like growth. I said, when do you kind of look at growth, and how do you decide to grow, and what risks did you take, kind of some of the questions that we got too, because there we're in uncharted waters. I don't have all the right answers to everything. We're just trying our best. But he had some really cool insight, and I had never thought of it this way. But the question he posed was, Luke, when you're tight on cash because you're growing and you have payroll coming up, say your payroll 60 grand, and you've got equipment payments to come up, which one's a burden? And I'm like, damn. I'm like, honestly, both of them. And
Hmm.
he's like, yep. But which one do you worry about the most? I said, I would probably worry about the payroll, mainly because I know that those guys need those paychecks, right? As far as the equipment, I said, if I don't make a payment, I'm going to get on the horn with Kevin and be like, hey, I couldn't make it. Can you give me a couple days and see what I could figure out? And he goes, oh yeah. He goes, I asked that question a lot, and there's a lot of people that care more about the equipment than their guys. And he goes, and you can see that in the work. You can see that in their turnover. Because if you don't care about your people, the equipment doesn't make you money, right? The
Yeah.
equipment helps your employees making money. And it was really cool, like question that he posed, and like just a whole new way of thinking, because there's a lot of people, people talk about payroll all the time, right? Oh, payroll's coming out this week. It's this much. Okay, but how much did you bill off that payroll?
Right.
Right. And if you're say it is 60 grand, right? What can you do better as the business owner to where it's not a burden, right? What are
Yeah.
you doing within the business that is maybe hindering that? Or, are you spending too much on your credit card? Are you not being diligent on checking statements and making sure, the charges on there or what they're supposed, whatever the case may be. So it all in all, he kind of summarized it is business is up to you, right? It's how you go about it. It is how you treat it, and it's how you respect it. And it's just a really cool conversation.
Dude, that's awesome. I feel like that's a sense of extreme ownership as well, of
Oh
like,
yeah,
hey, you're the business owner. You got to make sure your company's profitable. That's not your employee's job. And
no,
granted, there's a lot of things that go on there, but
you got to relay that message, right? And everybody's got
yeah,
a vision, but it's on the business owner, right? It's up to you. If you're late on your bills, that's your problem, right? That's not your guy's problem. That's your problem.
right.
So
Yeah. And especially like you said too, with like, that these guys need it on this day because this is when they're supposed to get it. And this is when they, feed their families and like pay their light bill and things like that. So that makes sense. But when you hear that question come at you like that, you probably have never thought of it like that.
no, and like I said, everybody, I don't want to say complains about payroll, but that is like the first thing people bring up, almost in like a burden sense.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be treated that way. But I get it because it is a very large lump sum that comes out. But yeah, you gotta alter your thinking. It was probably my biggest takeaway from that question or conversation with him.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I know when you texted me that, I was like, that sounds like an incredible conversation. You could tell it like really got you thinking.
Oh yeah. It was a deep conversation, and it was just fun. I mean, the guy's been in the industry for, his dad, his grandpa owned it, so it's been in the family for so long, and it's just fun to hear that wisdom to somebody that
Yeah.
has probably seen most of the things that could go wrong, and like the
Yeah.
growing pains. And yeah, so it's fun to get that type of just type of conversation.
Yeah. And also, yeah, somebody that's been in the industry for more than, like has owned the business. I mean, it's generations we're talking about. This isn't even like a few years. This is
Yeah.
generations of ownership. And it's had to make tons and tons of changes and economy disasters and you name it. I mean, so they've probably seen it all. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's really cool because, it just shows you too, like, don't just take advice from the young people. Don't just take advice from the older people who've been in the industry. It's like you got to kind of filter out everything and like mix in everyone's experience because I think you can always learn something from everybody, but you can't take in everything.
And there's lessons to be learned everywhere. The big thing is dropping your ego and understanding, like, hey, I don't know everything. I can learn a lot from this said person or this company or how they did this. And knowledge is power in today's world. So that's my advice.
There we go. I think that was a great finish actually to our Q&A session here. Any last words before we actually get to record our rant tonight?
Thank you guys for listening. Sorry it's been a while, and sorry for my technical difficulties on the internet. Thanks for being patient. Dirtbags University, October 16th, sign up. Again, Luke, you recap that, but Zach's going to kind of dive into a lot of the stuff as far as branding, and Luke, you're going to get with us on the SEO and Google side of things. And I'm just going to sit there and drink. So we'll see you guys there.
It's gonna be a good time. Make sure you guys have full glasses, notepad, pen, and it's gonna be fun. So we'll see you there October 16th. And then, like we mentioned, Luke and I will both be at the Dirt World Summit in Houston. That's October 25th through the 27th. If you're going, let us know. It'd be fun to get together and get a drink. So, all
Absolutely. Drinks on Luke.
right, drinks on Luke. Like it.